to know that it's okay to fail, basically, because if you didn't fail,
not in your line of work. It's not okay.
Well,
I mean, I don't want you.
I don't say failing in terms of like people,
fatal failing. Right?
Yeah, not fatal failing, but it's okay to not always succeed, because if you succeeded all the time, then you'd have no reason to try harder.
Welcome to the Spartan Endurance Series on the Spartan Up podcast. Welcome to another classic episode of Spartan Up. Today, we'll hear from Howard Chang and Matt Segal. In 2015, Howard Chang told us he gets more satisfaction from being bad at something than from being a master. He believes learning to fail and get back up is the key to success. A karate champion at 17, he left all that behind to find new challenges in sport and business. Next, you'll hear from climber Matt Segal. At the time of the interview, he was training for his third attempt at a first ascent. He too thrives on the satisfaction of overcoming failure. This episode of Spartan Up is brought to you by FitAid and Honey Stinger. Race sturdy, recover clean with FitAid or FitAid Zero Sugar. Visit forthefitaid.com now and sign up to win an amazing grand prize package from FitAid and Spartan, monthly Spartan prize packs and more. FitAid, recover as hard as you race. Honey Stinger, made with organic honey and delicious ingredients. Use the code HSSpartan2020 at honeystinger.com to save 30% off.
Interviewed Howard Chang, had the opportunity, came here. Pittsfield, I had the awesome experience, maybe I should tell you after the interview, of visiting him down in the Bahamas, and I'll tell you what we did on his beach for a mile and a half. It was awesome.
You'll be shocked.
You'll be shocked. He runs a business, an awesome business up in Canada. His first success did not work out. Success turned into failure, but he got himself back up like we have so many guests do, and he ended up crushing it. He was a black belt at an early age, but I'm not going to tell you too much. Why don't we watch it, and you'll learn more.
Good.
The challenge for me is I actually found martial arts too easy.
Really?
I got my black belt at 16, I became a national champion at 17, and frankly, I got a little bit disengaged at that point.
Because it was too easy.
It was too easy.
And so is that, you think you're just from a lineage of like Bruce Lee types or something?
I actually think just from a genetic makeup, I'm a 100% fast twitch guy. I'm naturally eye-hand. So what I decided to do, because I found that too easy, I decided to take on something that would be incredibly hard for me, which is endurance.
At what age?
At 17, I made the switch.
You made a switch, and you said you were going to do something that you weren't comfortable doing.
Absolutely.
Which is hard for people to do.
Yeah.
Because we always go towards things that are comfortable for us to do. So that's a unique attribute.
Well, I think part of it is because I knew from a growth point of view, I wasn't intellectualizing it, I just felt it in my gut. From a growth point of view, I had to explore something else. So I decided to try to take on something I wasn't good at, which was endurance.
Right. And you crushed it?
I wouldn't say I crushed it. I started in competitive cycling, and I was terrible at it in the beginning. Like I said, I'm a 100% fast twitch guy, so I was great in the last 200 meters of any race. If I was there, I would usually win. But I had to work on the aspects, so I had to do a lot of hours on the bike. It takes me twice as long to build endurance as someone like you, who's probably more natural at it. But it gave me a mountain to climb, essentially, and it got me to focus, learn how to set goals very early, and also learn how to deal with a bit of humiliation and defeat. I was so used to winning at everything I did. Now I was losing at every race.
Isn't that wild? Because that's not a natural tendency to go towards something that you're going to be losing.
I might be a glutton for punishment.
Yeah,
I might.
But that's a good attribute.
I think it's helpful. It has helped me to go on in life because, I made the national team eventually. I won a provincial champion in cycling.
Yeah.
I won a provincial championships. I eventually started coaching in the sport. But as I went into business, what I found is that ability to fail, pick yourself up, and rebuild was essential. I mean, I was very successful in business in my 20s.
What part do you think is important? Is it the fail? Is it the pick yourself up? Which part is the part where we learn?
I think sport teaches you resiliency.
Right.
We bend, we don't break. So whether that's a guy like me trying to do 100 burpees, which for me would be incredibly difficult, I did my 100 burpees, first time out, because quitting wasn't an option. I just had to do it. Right. I did puke a little bit. Anyways. But I think that's part of what is crafted through exercise and sport.
Yeah. Let's walk some more. We're going to walk this way because I don't want to have you fall down the mountain. All right.
So, in sport, you fail,
Yeah.
you pick yourself up, or some people don't,
Some people don't,
Right.
and I've seen that too.
and then you move on, and you hopefully you build resiliency, like you said, and you get better. And you think that applies to business?
Absolutely. I mean, I think I read a stat once that the average millionaire has bankrupted at least twice. And I think when I went through a dramatic business fail at 30, I made my first million at 22. I, owned houses, owned beautiful cars, and at 30, I had a massive business fail when the bank called their line. I went bankrupt, and I spent 9 months living in my parents' basement apartment, single dad of 2 kids. Ironically, everybody around me, my family, I don't come from a family of entrepreneurs, so everybody was saying, well, you should get a job as a bike courier because you're a cyclist, or, oh, you should get a job as a taxi driver. I never, ever even thought that was an option. I was just working on my next venture.
Right.
So yes, I was eating craft
You had
dinner.
it in your gut.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Do you think a guy like you, 17 years old, national championship karate, out of nowhere, then goes and crushes it in cycling, then becomes a young millionaire, fails, picks himself back up. Your sister shoots right to the top. She's running a Fortune 500 company. What did your parents do? Were you guys on steroids? Were you test tube babies that were experiments? What?
My parents were amazing. They lived a good life in Taiwan. They were quite wealthy, self-made. And when they came to Canada, they had to leave everything behind, because at the time Taiwan was kind of like a fascist government. You couldn't take anything with you. So for the first 18 months in Canada, we lived above a laundromat. I mean, stereotypical immigrant story. 7 of us packed into a 2-bedroom apartment above a laundromat.
But maybe that's good.
I think it was good. And my parents, they learned to speak English better. They got jobs. We lived a middle-class existence. We were not wealthy by any means, but we were taught a work ethic. And we were also allowed to explore and have adventure in the world. They didn't over-coddle us, which I think was a very, very important part.
You walked to school.
We walked to school. We did way crazier things than that. My sister and I, at 16, took a train up to North Bay, 400 miles north of Toronto, and we backpacked for 3 weeks in the backcountry at 16.
Wow.
So, yeah, my parents, either they were ignorant of our craziness or they allowed it, one way or the other.
It worked, though, right?
It did, absolutely.
Yeah, I was talking to famous people like Richard Branson, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he says his mom would make him run 20 miles home or bike
Right.
100 miles.
Right.
And so I think our instinct as parents is, oh, let's coddle them, but maybe your parents did the right thing.
Yeah, and I think also as a struggling immigrant family, I don't think you can coddle that much. So I think they had the benefit of circumstance as well. When I look at a lot of my peers who are, well off, dual income, I think sometimes they coddle and perhaps even give cash to compensate for really managing the upbringing of their children.
Yeah. All right, so living above the laundromat was a good thing, and maybe giving kids too much, like you just said, people compensate with money or whatever, maybe that's a bad thing.
Yeah, I mean, there's always a temptation to be a helicopter parent because our kids are precious.
Yeah.
I think, we do need to have the benefit of perspective around that, and to understand that, just as when you train an athlete, they have to go through adversity.
Yeah.
In order to succeed in sport. Well, you need to go through adversity to succeed in life. So, yeah, your kids are going to skin their knees, so you teach them how to heal, you teach them how to pick themselves up. I think that's a healthier process.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. How would you be ready for what the world is if you haven't practiced it?
Right.
Right? And
Right.
the world does break us down and force us to pick ourselves back up. What's your favorite exercise?
Well, I'd lie and say burpees, but I'm not going to. Right now, actually, my favorite exercise is stand-up paddleboarding.
I actually know that about you. That's
Yes.
right. I tried that with you.
Yeah, because again, it's a new challenge, and one of my challenges now is learning how to not just paddle on flat water, but to actually surf waves with it. Because, I've done a little bit of surfing, I'm not terribly good at it, and I love to take anything I'm not very good at it
And get good
and
at it.
challenge myself with it. Yeah.
And that's, I think, the lesson for today, is get out of your comfort zone and do things that you're not necessarily good at.
Here's what Joe DeSena, Sephra the Seed Huntress, Colonel Nye, and Johnny Waite took away from that conversation.
great interview as always, but I think you left us wanting a little bit more about that beach story. Because tell us that a little bit quickly.
I don't know if I should.
Yeah.
No, I'm
This
kidding.
might have to be censored for our
I'm kidding.
viewers.
We had dinner. You don't know about this. We didn't talk about it in the interview. We had dinner with Simon Whitfield, Howard and I. Simon, Olympic champion, Canadian triathlete, who we will be interviewing here someday on the podcast. And that night we came up with a challenge, Simon, myself, and Howard, and said, why don't we do a true burpee mile, not a CrossFit burpee mile, which isn't an actual mile. And I woke up 5 a.m. Simon didn't show up. Howard didn't show up. And I'm not knocking Howard, but he wasn't there at 5 a.m. And I started doing burpees on this black beach. It was pitch black. And I had no marker to tell me where a mile was. Well, afterwards, after I'd collapsed, it was about 1.5 miles I had gone. And it was awful. There's very little relevance to the interview, what I'm telling you. But he's got an awesome place down in the Bahamas that he was able to afford because of his success up in Canada, running an incredible business. And as you saw with the interview, he stumbled a few times in his life before he was able to pick himself back up and make it happen. What do you guys think of the whole black belt thing at such a young age and such abilities?
You can go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say what I thought was interesting is here's a guy, as he said, natural talent, fast twitch fibers. He said that he just was a real natural for karate. But once he got to the top of that game, he decided to try something else and to put himself in a position where he wasn't comfortable, where he wasn't naturally good at something.
Which is the hard thing to do, right?
Yeah, it's just people just don't do that. And, especially young people don't do that. So I think...
Like going out on the beach at 5 a.m.
Exactly. No, but I said young people. Right. Old guys quite often will do things like that. So
right.
yeah. So but no, I think that served him really well later in life because when he did come into challenges, he was like, oh yeah, I know that I can do things that don't seem comfortable. I can pick myself up and.
But it's very unusual, right? Most people, if they're lucky, get to do what they're good at.
Yeah, sure.
And here's a guy who was good at something that just said, I'm going to go do something else because this is too easy.
Yeah, stretch yourself.
It's just that's not a norm.
Yeah.
How many,
Although
how many
you
world-class
take the entrepreneurial
guitarists
spirit,
decide to
though.
go
pick up piano playing?
But there are some, and that's incredible. And you know what? They're the people who tend to own homes in Bahamas, I think.
Yeah, that's right.
And bring it back to sort of the average person. Because, the Bo Jacksons of the world, we're not all going to be that person.
Right.
But a mistake that most people make, there's something they're really good at. Say they're a decent hockey player. At 40, 50, 60, they're still playing hockey, and they're clinging on to this one thing that they were good at.
Right.
Something that I've learned over the years is that taking up something that you're not good at any point in your life is the best thing you could possibly do.
Well,
So
you did it recently with paddleboarding.
Absolutely, yeah.
awesome.
That's right. Just jumped into a 50-kilometer paddleboard race out of the blue. And I wasn't good at it. I'm still not great
And
at
you
it.
can't even swim.
And that's why I didn't fall off the board. But but what I mean though is if somebody's a great hockey player, they're going to spend the rest of their life becoming a less great hockey player. But they could at 50 go play volleyball for the first time ever, and at 53 be better than they were at 50. So there really is something to be said at any point in your life for taking up something you're not good at, because that keeps your neurons growing, keeps your brain firing, keeps everything connecting as opposed to decaying.
Next up, Matt Segal's take on the topic. This episode of Spartan Up is brought to you by Honey Stinger. Honey Stinger is made with organic honey and delicious ingredients. Honey Stinger's waffles, energy chews, gels, and bars give you the fuel you need to push harder, go further, do all the things that we do as Spartans. For training and racing, you need convenient nutrition that tastes great and works. Honey Stinger is Spartan's official on-course nutrition. It's made with real honey. Honey Stinger started with a simple plan: wholesome ingredients, great taste, and, of course, honey. Why does Honey Stinger use honey? Using an ingredient engineered by nature, not in a laboratory, it has its benefits. In fact, the less you mess with Mother Nature, the better. That's why they're committed to the True Source Honey Pledge. And they've got a special code just for our audience. You can save 30% with the code HSSpartan2020. That's HSSpartan2020 at honeystinger.com to save 30% off, just for our Spartan Up podcast listeners. Why do you race? For the glory? For the honor? For the Fit Aid? Each ice-cold can of Fit Aid and Fit Aid Zero Sugar has ingredients to help your body recover, like BCAAs, glucosamine, turmeric, electrolytes, and omega-3s. Fit Aid doesn't have artificial flavors or sweeteners. That's why Spartan loves it. In fact, Fit Aid is at every Spartan race finish line. It's the perfect recovery for your active lifestyle. It's 45 calories, it's non-GMO tested, vegan, paleo-friendly, and certified gluten-free, kosher, and it never contains any artificial colors, flavors, sweeteners, or sodium. And now Fit Aid has a zero sugar option. It's keto-friendly and only 5 calories. It's sweetened with monk fruit and stevia, natural stuff. Can you imagine drinking a soda when you could have this after a race, after the gym, hiking, or biking? That's why Fit Aid is an official partner of the U.S. Spartan Race Series, right? They're at every finish line. So grab a can at the finish line, but then you're going to want more at home. So head over to drinkfitaid.com and find out about their low-calorie, zero-sugar recovery blends. That's drinkfitaid.com.
Today, we are in Boulder, Colorado at Zeal Optics with Matt Segal, who is an incredible rock climber.
Well, you're in
he's done
Pittsfield.
I'm in
going-
Pittsfield.
I was in Boulder.
The average Joe's going to Boulder.
No, I was in
And,
Boulder. It was awesome. Ted
yeah.
Kennedy hooked me up. I was in Zeal's. I never even heard of the company, but the goggles and the glasses and stuff they make are amazing.
Yep.
And he just happened to be there, and everybody said, you have to talk to this rock climber. This guy is unbelievable.
One of the best in the world.
Is he one of the best in the world? Yeah. The interview was incredible. The guy's, he's got veins coming out of his fingers. I mean, really impressive guy. Rock climbers always intrigue me. You?
Yeah, they're a different, kind of a different cat, if you will.
And cat is a good term for a rock climber. I should say.
Yeah, no, they're out there on their own.
Yeah.
Way out there, right?
Way out there.
Just living in the moment.
So let's see what he's got to say, and who knows, maybe we'll harness up afterwards and go for a rock climb ourselves.
I'd be in.
Sounds good.
All right.
You were saying about this mountain up in British Columbia.
Yeah.
You've attacked 3 times,
Yep.
failed,
Yep.
not succeeded yet. Sorry to say it. There's a chance you don't make it next year.
Yeah.
But you keep going back, and that's where most people fail in life. I think is it takes more than one time. Sometimes it
Yeah.
takes a decade. I know businesses I've built have taken a lot longer than they should have, but you don't stop. You don't quit. What keeps you going?
I think with anything, with business, with climbing, it's the inspiration, and for me, and finding what inspires you. And for me, this particular route, this particular wall, is the most beautiful thing I've ever tried to climb. So why not? Why? Of course I'm gonna dedicate. After really hard time, after like not succeeding this year, but it was like there was a period where I was depressed. I was bummed. I was like, oh, what am I gonna do? But then it's like, well, of course I'm gonna go back next year. Like, how could I not? Like, you can't just leave it there. And for me, I think it's important. The only way that I've been able to continue to go back and to orient my whole year now around training for this one route is inspiration. It's not. I mean, sure, I love climbing and it's my passion, but to truly be inspired by the objective is what allows me to.
So is it the objective? Is it you want other people to know you conquered? Like, will it be a big deal for the outside world of climbers that you conquered that, or not really?
It will be for sure. I mean, it's a really difficult climb. It's one of the hardest of its. It will be. It'll be
A big
sure.
deal.
It'll be a big deal, kind of.
But is that driving you?
Not necessarily. And I've talked about this with my climbing partner, where I go up there, and we would go up there to do this route if it was 2 grades easier, because it's that beautiful and in that crazy of a position. There's just not that many of those lines left in the world.
Right.
Of those first ascents left. Like,
So
there's
no one's
just-
done this.
No. Yeah. So for us, that's like the driving factor, and it's just a bonus that it's that much harder. That it's that much like.
Here's what's going to be interesting for me. Knock on wood, you conquer it.
Yeah.
When do you go back? What time of year?
June, July.
Next June you conquer it. Do you think once you conquer it, all of a sudden it's going to be conquerable by many then, because it can be done? Is that what makes it hard, when no one's done something?
It definitely makes it a little bit more difficult for sure. And it takes the first ascension, it's a little bit longer because they have to lay the groundwork. We had to place bolts, we had to figure out the sequences, we had to there's a lot to it. I do think it will get repeated, but I would be surprised if it got repeated right away, because it's a really big commitment to be up there where we are. It's a really remote wall, and you'd have to get really lucky with good weather to be able to do it in one season, I think.
Right.
But I hope so. I have some good friends that I'm going to try to once we do it, that I'd love to,
rope into
into going up there and telling us how hard it is,
Have you been filming it, or?
A little bit, yeah. We film a little bit ourselves, and yeah.
How tall is it?
It's the whole wall is maybe like 1,800 feet, something like that. 1,500 feet.
So just because I have a lack of knowledge, start to finish time-wise, once you've nailed this thing?
For us, we'll start on the ground and it'll take us a couple days. Yeah.
And so what do? You just sound like an idiot. You actually sleep?
Sleep on what we call a portal ledge. Yeah.
How's that feel?
It's pretty cool. It's pretty fun. That's a cool place to be, know. I'm not too afraid of heights. But every once in a while, the beginning of the season, I definitely get a little spooked up there because you're like, it's like really exposed.
Like at 900 feet, you're hanging off the wall?
Yeah, you're kind of like you're feeling the air beneath your feet, but you get used to it. You just kind of push through the little bit of fear that arises, and eventually, you kind of become a little bit numb to it.
Somebody like you hanging on the edge, pushing the limits. For anybody out there that's having a tough time waking up in the morning and getting it done.
I think the biggest thing is find what inspires you. I think that's really important. It's really important to be inspired, and then to know that it's okay to fail, basically. Because if you didn't fail,
not in your line of work, it's not okay.
Well,
I mean, I don't want you.
I don't say failing in terms of like
fatal failing. Right?
Yeah, not fatal failing, but it's okay to not always succeed, because if you succeeded all the time, then you'd have no reason to try harder, in my opinion. So yeah. I kind of view, failure as a way to be further fulfilled, because it inspires me to train harder and
better to live a life of failure than oh wells, right? I didn't do this. I didn't do that.
Yeah, exactly.
Go for it.
Yeah, and then or if you're just succeeding all the time, you're not trying hard enough. Is the other side of it.
I like that.
I could go climbing all the time and never fall, but like I'm gonna, on a rope, that is, I can go climbing all the time and never fall on a rope, but no, I go out and I take falls all the time.
Push the edge.
So I push myself. So eventually when I accomplish something, it actually means something.
Yeah, I like that.
It's not just like, oh, I made it to the top, like I make it to the top all the time. It's like, it's actually important.
Yeah.
So for me, that's what failure is success. Like that is.
So why do they give everybody a trophy then? Why do all these kids get trophies? That's what I want to know.
I don't know.
It's not good.
I don't know, yeah.
Good stuff.
Before we close, a little more from Johnny Waite, Set for the Seed Huntress, Joe DeSena, and Colonel Nye.
That guy's the real deal. That's some pretty serious stuff he's taking on.
Yeah, I don't. Not that I'm afraid of heights, but and I've done some climbing just with Jumars and ropes. Yeah. I couldn't do it. I don't know how you guys feel about that. It's definitely up your alley. There's twigs and branches growing off rocks. So
yeah, the bonsai trees. Yeah, no, my brother he opens up rock climbing gyms, Brooklyn Boulders. So I've been around a lot, and I think the mentality is great. And I mean, the whole analogy of making a first ascent on somewhere and finding your own line and just really being enamored with a rock and finding a connection with something out in nature and just pushing yourself to keep trying to be successful. It was really inspiring.
Yeah, it just seems like it's truly independent. And you're out there again. You're just kind of relying on yourself, your own abilities, your own equipment. Just out there. It is, to me, it's an interesting mentality, and it's different from, we've talked, a lot of these other guys are either athletes or leaders with large organizations behind them. Rock climber, to me, seems to be a very solitary event.
Lone Ranger.
Yeah, it is, and they're finding, you say the ascent. Mm-hmm. I mean, finding your own path. I mean, and going up, and he's done what, 8 of these?
He's got 8 that he's recorded as the first ascent.
Right.
And something that I thought was really cool about that too, though, is he talks about being the first one. You're finding the line. You're planting the anchors, and but to become that good, he has to have followed a lot of other people's lines too. So as much as it's a solitary sport, I completely agree that it is. For him to become as successful as he is, someone else has had to have gone out and blazed the way on other ones as well. So it's amazing how, when he goes up and he sets a course, there's the question about once you achieve that, are other people just going to knock it off left, right, and center? You've said that about the 4-minute mile, right? I mean, all of a sudden, they're getting broken like crazy.
Yeah, well, it's doable now in your mind.
But I love that he said not real quickly on this one. Like, it's that hard, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And well, in fact, he's failed, 3 times, he said?
Yeah, but he has a stubbornness to succeed. I really like when he said, well, what do you want me to do? Just leave it there, right? And so I think that's like a lot of things that we talk about. People don't complete a race or they don't finish something, and then they immediately go back, right? Or they start
I
training.
ran into a guy who said, hey, I got to tell you, you changed my whole family's life. We said, how? He said, my son found Spartan Race. We went and did it. We trained for 4 months, me and my 2 teenage boys, and we got done and we were having dinner. We were celebrating with mom and the family, and there was this extra piece to the medal. And my older son came over and said, Dad, this thing's driving me crazy. We've got to go. We got to do the Super now and the Beast.
Oh, that's the trifecta.
And they drove 1,400 miles for one and 1,000 miles for the other to get it done. And it's like he said, right? That mountain is just sitting out there, and he's got to get it done.
Yeah.
And but that burning desire doesn't sit in everybody.
Well, but also we've talked a lot about failure and when it's okay to quit and what is and isn't. But what I really learned from this one too is that he didn't get up that mountain. That's not failure, because the mountain's still there, right? You're not going to every single time you go out achieve the goal that time. But if you go try and say, well, I guess I can't do this, then okay, then you fail.
Yeah, the goal remains the same. Right?
Yeah.
Get up the mountain.
Yeah.
If it takes 3, 4, 10 times.
Lose some battles, but win the war.
Right. And
Right?
he's still going to go up. I mean, it's just single purpose focus. You know, I mean,
He's getting that done.
He's got it
Making the
in,
boat
in
go
his
faster.
head, and it's going to happen.
Thanks for listening to this classic episode of Spartan Up, where we revisit some of the best interviews from the past. If you want to see more classic interviews and some of our favorite takeaways, go to spartan.com/toughbible. Don't forget, come back every Tuesday for new interviews with Spartan founder and CEO, Joe DeSena. See you next time. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Endurance Series on Spartan Up Podcast. Spartan Up is your partner in resilience for mind, body, and spirit. We're here 3 days every week. Tuesdays, you can find Joe DeSena, founder and CEO of Spartan, interviewing biohackers, business leaders, authors, and athletes. Thursdays and Saturdays, catch episodes from our DECA, Endurance, Trail, Combat, and La Ruta series. Do you know someone who needs a little nudge? Maybe they could use some motivation, tactics to be stronger, healthier, happier, more successful. Tell them about our show. And if you're watching on YouTube, leave us a comment. We want to know who's watching and who's listening. Thanks. See you next time. This episode of Spartan Up is brought to you by FitAid and Honey Stinger. Race dirty, recover clean with FitAid or FitAid Zero Sugar. Visit forthefitaid.com now and sign up to win an amazing grand prize package from FitAid and Spartan, monthly Spartan prize packs, and more. FitAid. Recover as hard as you race. Honey Stinger, made with organic honey and delicious ingredients. Use the code HSSpartan2020 at honeystinger.com to save 30% off.